Well, this week is a heavy hitter. The Mark III Toyota Supra. Specifically, a 1992 Toyota Supra 2.5 twin-turbo R. I'm not gonna do it. I'm not going to address or make reference to memes here. The Mark III Supra deserves so much more respect here. It deserves all the attention. And it stands well above the memes that car guys love to quote. This is a legendary car, and for a multitude of good reasons. The Supra was a car that helped put Toyota on the enthusiast map. This was the pinnacle of Toyota's lineup, and over-engineered showcase of Toyota's technology at the time. The Mark III Supra would become a legend. It would be eclipsed by its following generation, but that car became such a feat in engineering that it priced itself out of production. As the years went on, the Supra's legend increased. The Supra became an icon of the Japanese tuner car scene, especially with its 1JZ and 2JZ straight-six engines that could be built to handle boatloads of power, and a rear-drive platform willing to spin the rears until the end of time. The Supra was a legendary grand tourer of its time. One would argue that this was the peak of what Toyota was capable of, as they have seemingly become complacent and safe during the aughts. But no, in the 1980s, Toyota was out there to prove the world that it was a force to be reckoned with. The Mark III Supra is a legend in the car world, and I honestly felt outclassed by this car. Here I am, a lowly mailman who likes to write about cars, driving a pristine Mark III JDM Supra. It's got me rambling about it. Very few cars have reduced me to this. With the death of the Supra in America in 1998, in Japan in 2002, the legend would grow thanks to video games and movies like The Fast and the Furious over time. This led to a fever pitch in the 2010s and the eventual return of the legendary nameplate. But how did such a legendary nameplate start in the first place? Well, it was originally a submodel for the Celica Sport Compact. Known as the Celica Supra and introduced in 1978, it shared much of everything from the doors back, but would be elongated in the front of the car to accommodate a straight-six engine versus the Celica's four-banger. When the Mark II was introduced in 1981, it rocketed the Supra name into the 1980s with very modern styling. But it was the Mark III in 1986 that took the Supra name to new heights. No longer did it share its platform with the cheaper Celica, with that model switching to a front-wheel drive architecture. No, the Supra was now its own full-blown model, and now it was allowed to flourish. Chassis code A70, base models used various versions of the 2-liter 1G straight-six. Mid-level models got the 3-liter 7M i6, available naturally aspirated or in turbo flavors, and the top-of-the-line models got the 2.5-liter 1JZ GTE dual overhead cam twin-turbo straight-six. Behind those sixes were either the Aisin A340E 4-speed auto, naturally aspirated models got the Aisin W58 5-speed manual, and the turboed models got the Aisin R154 5-speed manual. Power is then sent to the rear wheels via a double wishbone independent rear suspension. Did I mention that the Supra was a leader in tech at the time? It boasted 3-channel ABS, Toyota's TEMS active shocks, acoustic control induction system that controlled air compression pulses on 7M models, and available power sunroof that was available to start in 1991. This particular Mark III Supra is a 1992 2.5 twin-turbo R model. This is a JDM model that saw some fun stuff that American models didn't get, such as the 1JZ. While the 3-liter 7M GTE was a fine engine and the top-of-the-line engine for America, its 232 horsepower and 254 foot-pounds of torque left a little to be desired. No. In Japan, the 1JZ sat atop of the heap with the factory 276 horsepower and 268 foot-pounds of torque. Helping those numbers is the fact that unlike the 7M single turbo, the 1JZ slapped 2 turbos in the engine bay for even more turbo goodness. Other goodies included in this model was Recaro seats that has this neat little sliding cushion that provides some extra leg support. The twin-turbo R also gets a Momo wheel, which is a nice addition, especially in the age before airbags. Another fun fact is that there is a wide body and narrow body models. America got exclusively wide-body models, while Japan got almost exclusively narrow-body models to help avoid larger car taxes, especially with the 2-liter models. So, this particular car happens to be a narrow-body 2.5 twin-turbo R. This particular Supra does have some upgrades, as you can obviously see, but they're not outrageous or obnoxious. They supplement this Mark III well. The original Thames springs have been replaced with BC coilovers, and it gives the car a nice little subtle stance. The next thing you notice, or possibly the first thing, is the 18-inch Cosmos Racing XT006R wheels, which of their copper color complement the dark green mica metallic fantastically well in the sun. The larger wheels make room for a common big brake hack for Mark III Supras. 2000 to 2002 Mercedes-Benz S500 brake calipers bolt on in the front, and upgrade the front calipers from single piston to 4-piston Brembo calipers. This all allows for larger rotors as well as 324mm rotors versus the factory 302mm rotors. I'll include a very good Tumblr blog in the description of this video that goes into that swap into more detail. In those Brembo calipers are EBC pads. Other mods include a drift motion downpipe, HKS catback exhaust, and a Pioneer head unit. The previous owner had replaced the shifter and bushings in the transmission, and soon after the current owner Tyler had purchased it, the factory clutches started to slip, so he replaced it with a Clutchmaster product. Alright, let's get to what you've all been probably waiting for on this video, the driving dynamics for the Mark III Supra. They're fantastic! It's not sporty in a modern sense, no, this is more of an 80s Grand Tourer, and it's a fantastic one at that. It doesn't have the instantaneous acceleration like a modern car, but the 1JZ has a fantastic torque band. And when those turbos kick in, it punches you forward like all these fantastic 80s, early 90s turbo cars do. The R154 is geared more for highway speeds, which means it absolutely soaks up the miles with ease. And on these twisty country roads, that's where the Mark III Supra is really at home. The steering is a little heavy, but keep in mind this is a car that was designed in the 1980s, so power steering tuning hadn't been fine-tuned to the sharpness that you're used to now. But it has this feel that it just falls into and carves the curves with ease that just feels so good. There's a smoothness that I'm struggling to describe. Oh, I could have driven this car all day on these back roads of Iredell County. Shifting is a little stiff, and that's probably my only complaint. I found it hard to try to shift quickly, especially going up and down into third gear, but that Clutchmaster clutch is probably one of the best aftermarket clutches I've ever driven. It was almost dummy-proof, and the torque of the 1JZ meant that you probably had to force it to stall in order to get it to stall. Oh, man, this is the perfect Sunday drive car. Just fantastic. 1992 was the final year of the Mark III Supra. The following year introduced the Mark IV, or the A80 Supra, which would push the Supra to Toyota's bubble economy limit. Modern 90s styling, even more electronics, and even more power from a new engine, the legendary 2JZ. But it came at a cost. The price skyrocketed, and when that bubble economy burst, sales plummeted. It was such a fantastic car, but its price limited its appeal in a struggling economy. The A80 Supra left our shores in 1998 and went finally into production in Japan in 2002. But while they didn't sell a lot, the performance of the Mark IV furthered the legend of the Supra. Video games, a star role in The Fast and the Furious, and years of concept teases would help create hype and a fever pitch for a new Supra. Well, we would get one, but Toyota would partner with BMW to give us the current Mark V, which is produced as a sister car in Austria to BMW's own Z4. And unfortunately, the new Supra has many feelings more of a BMW product than a Toyota, and for good reason. But the Mark III Toyota Supra is such a fantastic car, and it deserves all the praise it gets. This is a quintessential 80s and 90s Toyota, and just sports car as a whole. Over-engineered and overbuilt, and punching well above its weight, the Mark III Supra was a car that made the automotive world take notice of the Japanese brand. A legend in its day, and a legend that builds as time goes on, even if the modern Supra doesn't really carry on that legacy. Look at Mark IV prices, as they are often approaching six figures. Mark IIIs do seem to be getting a little cheaper recently after becoming pricey during the post-pandemic used car craziness, but all used cars at that point, especially old and famous sports cars and enthusiast cars, yeah, everything was crazy for a little bit. It still kind of is. But I could have driven this car all day. It's so good. It has a street presence that you would struggle to find from a period Corvette. There's just a cool factor to it that just turns heads everywhere you go. It's just one of those Japanese cars that, if you're a car guy, you look twice. Personally, seeing the A70 Supra in all its green glory coming down the road, it just has a cool factor. I was really excited to get behind the wheel of this car. Absolute Radwood darling. During the drive, I noticed people rubbernecking to see this car, which is something I don't often experience filming these Wookie drives. Tyler, the owner, described it as a boxer dropper, which, yeah, those were all dudes rubbernecking. But that's not a bad thing. Just a legend in the history of the Supra that young car enthusiasts, especially younger men, draw to. 1992 Toyota Supra 2.5 Twin Turbo R. A legend in its time, and for a good reason. Have a good day, everyone. Thank you once again for watching another episode of Wookie Drives. Huge shout out to Tyler of Lincolnton, North Carolina for letting me drive his Supra for this video. If you have a car or truck you'd like to see on the show and happen to be in the Charlotte-Mooresville, North Carolina area, email me with your submission at wookiedrives@gmail.com. That's right, submit your car to wookiedrives@gmail.com. One more time, that's wookiedrives@gmail.com. Drop a comment with some feedback. Any sort of feedback or interaction with this video really helps this small channel grow in the algorithm. Share with all your Mark III Toyota Supra friends. Don't forget to give the video a like. And finally, subscribe for more Wookie Drives like these. Thank you so much for watching, and have a good day.
You shaped it in your mind. Total performance. Now the all-new Toyota Supra brings it alive. Super power, created by a 3-liter 24-valve, 200-horsepower engine. Super suspension, racing type, double wishbone, fully independent. Super cockpit, where you perform. The new Toyota Supra, performance without compromise. Now the Supra dynasty begins. Who could ask for anything more?